Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are peeling back the layers on a phrase that honestly sounds like it belongs in some cyberpunk dystopia, but it's actually a brand new buzzword coming straight out of Silicon Valley, and the people literally building our future are taking it dead seriously. We're looking at this concept of the permanent underclass. So let's just dive right in, because what sounds like pure science fiction is actually what's driving today's hypergrind culture and these massive tech layoffs.
Right off the bat, this right here is the question that's literally keeping software engineers awake at night. How do you escape the permanent underclass? You see, tech workers are genuinely terrified of this rapidly approaching, totally irreversible split in society. On one side, you've got wealthy asset owners just living in a fully automated utopia, and on the other, basically everyone whose labor is entirely undercut by machines. For the workers themselves, it kind of feels like their value as human beings is suddenly on this strict, ticking depreciation schedule.
Now, the terminology itself actually has some pretty deep historical roots. Back in the 1960s, economist Gunnar Myrdal used the term underclass to describe communities crippled by rapid deindustrialization. People basically cut off from general society due to long-term unemployment. But today's tech industry, well, they've completely co-opted and supercharged the term. They're using it to describe the imminent and complete death of social mobility. The fear here is that if you aren't financially independent before the machines take over, you are going to be trapped in this new underclass forever. No way out.
To really grasp why they feel this is so inevitable, we got to look at the macro trends that existed way before AI even entered the chat. Because we're already seeing the squeeze. Just look at this alarming drop to 50%. Back in 1940, 90% of American children grew up to out-earn their parents. That was the dream, right? But by the time millennials entered the workforce, that upward mobility absolutely plummeted to just 50%. So GDP went up, corporate profits went up, but those gains, they just stopped flowing to the workers.
And to really ground this anxiety in some clinical economic math, look at how the primary wealth-building tool in America, home ownership, has just completely detached from wages. In just a 5-year window, between 2019 and 2024, home prices skyrocketed by a massive 48%. Meanwhile, household incomes? They crept up by only 22%. With the median home price sitting at roughly 5 times the median household income, that single most common ladder up the economic classes is, well, it's increasingly just entirely out of reach.
Oh, and if you thought higher education was your foolproof backup plan, yeah, think again. Education costs have shot up an astonishing 312% since 1963. Combine that with this staggering number, the average federal borrower is starting their career in a nearly $40,000 hole, $39,633 to be exact. The very tool that was supposed to propel you upward is now acting like a massive anchor, basically forcing young people to spend years of their lives just trying to dig back up to zero.
Which brings us to the real core of this existential dread. Delivering this grim reality with absolute clinical precision, a McKinsey & Company report sums it up perfectly. Over a third of someone's lifetime realizable wealth is tied up in their human capital. Think about what that really means. Unless you are already independently wealthy, your greatest financial asset is not some stock portfolio. It's the future hours of your life that you can trade for money. But widespread AI adoption introduces a cheaper, much faster competitor, completely threatening to permanently depreciate your human capital.
So why is Silicon Valley specifically so obsessed with this whole permanent underclass idea? Well, because data from Raj Chetty's Opportunity Atlas reveals that San Jose is literally one of the very last places in America where the economic ladder actually still functions. A child born in the bottom fifth of the income distribution in San Jose has a 12.9% chance of reaching the top fifth by age 30. Compare that to just 4.4% in Charlotte. The people building AI live in this incredibly rare bubble of upward mobility, and trust me, they know exactly how valuable that is.
And this localized meritocracy birthed a distinctly unflashy tech culture. Unlike Wall Street, they weren't out there buying expensive suits. No, they were earning ridiculous money, sharing a bathroom with 3 roommates, and executing a very specific, aggressive survival plan. It goes like this: work hard, save aggressively, vest your company shares, and get out. It was all about achieving financial independence before burning out, securing a seat at the absolute top before the ride comes to a complete stop. So what exactly was the finish line for that survival plan? $2.5 million. Based on the famous 4% rule in finance, an employee keeping their expenses at around $100,000 a year needs a $2.5 million diversified portfolio to safely hit that escape hatch. For the average American, that is an absolute fantasy. But for a senior software engineer pulling down 400 grand a year plus fast appreciating stock, hitting that target in their 30s was highly realistic.
But you guys, the rules of the game are suddenly changing. Industry leaders like Sam Altman are aggressively marketing a terrifying new narrative that AI will create the first one-person billion-dollar company. Whether that's just pure hype or reality, the message to tech workers is crystal clear right now. Business equity is about to entirely eclipse the value of human labor. If one person with AI can literally do the work of thousands, well, you either own the machine or you're replaced by it.
And this intense corporate marketing has sparked a massive culture shift inside these companies. That relaxed, beanbag chair, hoodie-wearing valley culture, it has morphed into a hyper-serious grind set. Now it's all about 80-hour work weeks, biohacking to optimize every ounce of productivity, and token maxing, which is basically hoarding crypto and equity payouts at all costs. It's an environment driven by pure, unadulterated economic fear. They feel the window closing and they are sprinting to secure assets before they're just left behind.
And honestly, that fear is heavily amplified by a brutal reality check. Just look at these compounding tech layoffs devastating the industry. The numbers are staggering. We saw 150,000 people let go in 2024, another 122,000 in 2025, and an astounding 108,000 already in early 2026. The available seats on the lifeboats are rapidly shrinking, and the very architects of the future are finding themselves abruptly pushed out into the cold.
Now, are all of these jobs actually being replaced by robots right this second? Well, no, not entirely. Deutsche Bank analysts have exposed a hidden, rather cynical corporate agenda here. They call it AI redundancy washing. Basically, many of these massive corporate cuts use the hype of AI as a polite excuse to fire employees. It perfectly masks the fact that these companies massively overhired during the pandemic. Framing layoffs as an AI restructuring sounds super futuristic in investor letters, all while quietly lowering capital expenditures.
But hey, regardless of the exact reason, the ladder is swiftly being pulled up. Entry-level tech job postings have crashed by 50%, and new grad hiring by the top 15 tech firms has been slashed by more than half. With the ladder being pulled up on new graduates, companies actually benefit massively from this dynamic. Think about it. When you have a terrified workforce that genuinely believes they're one bad quarter away from joining the underclass, they are going to demand less, complain less, and readily accept weekend deployments just to stay relevant.
Furthermore, there's a massive financial incentive for these tech giants to publicly validate this dystopian future. By outwardly portraying their technology as an absolutely unstoppable force of societal division, it perfectly justifies the extreme, eye-watering investments pouring into these companies right now. They are convincing the market that AI will reshape the entire social fabric, which drives their valuations straight to the moon right ahead of their massive public IPOs.
And all of this reveals the darkest, most perverse irony of this entire economic narrative. Think about the sheer irony of escaping the permanent underclass by riding the investment returns of creating that underclass in the first place. The very tech workers building the machine that threatens to destroy the middle class are desperately trying to use its profits to buy their way out. They know the ship is sinking, and they're essentially building the torpedoes just to afford a spot on the lifeboat.
So that leaves us with a final, incredibly provocative question. Will you survive the AI underclass? Because as the architects of our automated future sprint for the financial exits, we are left to wonder what happens to everyone else when the music finally stops. If the core value of human labor is fundamentally undercut, how do we structure our lives, our communities, and our economy? It is a question we absolutely cannot afford to ignore. Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with us today. Keep questioning the future built around us.